Steve Cardenas, a.k.a. Rocky the Red Power Ranger, and you are watching Smart Tank Revolution.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Smart Tank Revolution, where we always kick out at 2. I am your solo host again, Joey. I'm back in business. And I'm here to give you my raw rebuttal, which basically just a recap and impression on what transpired and closed a few moments ago. All I have to say is my opening thoughts is, this is how you do it. This is how we do it. Yeah, singing aside, this is how you follow up a very lackluster, what was on paper promising to be great Money in the Bank. This is how you do it. Show opened up hot as could be. They're in Ottawa, Ontario, and Canada's capital. And they open up with the best in the world. The best in the world. Music hits, and boom, cult of personality. Punk comes to the ring with a unbelievable response from the Canadian crowd. Probably the biggest response of the entire weekend. I mean, the roof blew off. People love CM Punk, and why not? He belongs on Mount Rushmore. I've said it time and time again. The guy is money. He's a license to print money, and he's just one of the most engaging, provocative talents in the ring that has ever been. Fight me on that. But anyways, he comes down, explains his whole tirade, explains why he cost Drew McIntyre. Actions have consequences. And he said, you put me on the shelf. Actions have consequences. I made you a promise as long as I was breathing. On this roster, you will never be world champion again. And he ran down all the incidences and all his times that he's kept this promise. So it was just to catch everyone up to speed, but not everyone is happy. And Seth Rollins' music hits. And then, oh, and that jazz, the crowd goes nuts. Now, we haven't seen these guys in the ring till prior to Royal Rumble, if I recall, on Raw, when Punk had just signed his Raw contract. And we knew that they were going to go at it eventually. We knew that this was a feud that had so much, as I like to say, meat on the bone, that people are salivating for it. But you've got unfinished business in Punk and McIntyre, and you got to get to that first. And I was concerned on Saturday that WWE might have booked themselves into a corner with their very bold decision to waste the Money in the Bank briefcase gimmick this year. And I mean waste it. They wasted it. I don't care. I can't be told anything different, but that's okay. The ship is getting righted again. The sea is getting less choppy. Course is corrected. And so far, so good. And there was a couple fun caveats on this. As Seth is making his entrance, Punk goes and sits cross-legged on the top of the announce table, puts a headset on, and he goes, well, while he's coming down, I might as well earn my paycheck and, earn my keep here and just talk to you fellas. And he's just chatting with Michael Cole and Pat McAfee in a really great, casual, dickish way that Punk does. And all of a sudden, he's like, geez, God, this really takes a long time, doesn't it? And it was funny because Seth gets in the ring, soaks up the adulation of the crowd, and then all of a sudden, he's like, oh, now you want to sit on the sidelines? Now you want to be out? And it was funny because, Punk in, typical punkish fashion just kind of trolls him. And Seth basically says, man, I was willing to let things slide. I don't like you. I've said what I've said. But as long as you kept your nose out of my business, I was willing to let you be a problem anywhere else. He's like, but what did you do? You stuck your nose in my business. And Punk rebuts with, I didn't stick my nose in your business. I was finishing my business. And he goes, I'm sorry. He goes, I'm very sorry. I didn't try to cost you your title aspirations. I wasn't trying to do anything other than get even with Drew McIntyre. And Seth doesn't take his apology very well. And then Punk goes, yeah, but you know what? Since it's you, I can't really be that sorry, can I? And then fast forward, they just kind of have a back and forth. And Seth goes, you said something very telling. Actions have consequences. And he goes, your actions have consequences. He's like, you want Drew McIntyre so bad. He's like, but when I'm done, you're not going to get him. You're not even going to be able to say Drew McIntyre because I'm going to put you right back on the shelf where you belong. He's like, I'm waiting for you to heal up before I do so. Because the sidebar is that Punk wanted Adam Pearce to reinstate Drew McIntyre so he can get his revenge fully in the ring. And Seth says, no. So what we've got gestating here, folks, is a good 3-way feud, which is nice because now you're weaving all the threads together to create something special. Right now, you could have a situation where Drew is out and Punk feuds with Rollins as a place warmer, or you could have Drew come back next week, which I thought I saw a graphic for that, but I'm not 100% sure. Or you can have a thing where all three of them go at it at SummerSlam. So now I do inevitably think you're going to get Punk and Drew at Bad Blood. I think the name of the pay-per-view alone warrants Punk versus Drew. I think you're going to get that. But Seth can't be the odd man out because now Seth isn't in the Gunther conversation for SummerSlam. It's a one-on-one with Damian Priest. And I do find that a little underwhelming. Not that Priest hasn't done a good job as champ, but just that my personal opinion and my illustrious colleague and co-host, Donnie, Mr. Wonderful, he disagrees with me on this. He thinks that you don't let Gunther win the title on his first go-around. And I think that would be a humongous mistake to not. Especially after the promo we got tonight on Raw, where Gunther just wonderfully and magnificently laid out his aspirations and his motivations. And so you've got so many avenues to go, but Priest versus Gunther is flat for me. It's a vehicle to get to the place that we really want to go, that like the more exciting ride. This is just the Uber you take to go to the, go to the next destination. And I'm going to jump around. This isn't going to be in linear fashion because when do I do anything conventional? I'm not going to. It's my show. I can do what I want. So we'll just jump to that Gunther promo, which took place towards the end of the show. And Gunther basically said, ever since I was a kid, I am not a fanboy. I didn't watch wrestling. I didn't get into this sport. And I love how he refers to it as a sport. It gives it credibility. He doesn't talk about it as sports entertainment. He says a sport, which means puts it on par with any other great sport that we are fans of or follow or just, revere. And he says, I'm not a fanboy. I'm not here to live out some ridiculous dream. He goes, as a matter of fact, it turns out that one of my favorite things to do is disappoint people and hurt people and make them sad because he's like, I gave credibility to this sport. He said, I used NXT UK as my battleground. And I love how he said, I didn't come calling WWE. I gave WWE no choice but to come calling me. They needed me to give them credibility. They needed me to give them credence and give them something that they can show is authentic. And it was wonderful. Gunther is getting so much better as promos. I didn't watch a ton of NXT UK, but I do know that Walter was good, but I don't remember him being this great on the mic. He wasn't this good on the stick. He's much better. He is so believable in this character and so believable in his presentation that ring general is one of the best things going. And I think it would be an absolute criminal situation to not let him win the title at SummerSlam. It is earmarked for him. It is destined for him. So you have that. Then we had the Chad Gable situation where Chad Gable was hurt. He came out and at the end of his match, forgive me, I know it just happened, but old brain here, he was laying down and the smoke happens. And so you're getting the Wyatt 6. Here comes the precursor. And of course, here comes Sister Abigail. I'm sorry, Abby the Witch. Sister Abigail is gone. Abby the Witch, a.k.a. Nikki Cross, comes out and delivers yet another box to the commentary booth. And God, she's so good at Abby the Witch. She doesn't have to say a word. The makeup they do on her, the presentation they do on her, the movements she makes, the little herky-jerky movements, like she's just so good in this character. It's wonderful. And for people who don't understand long-term storytelling, I know that's like a buzz term now, but long-term storytelling, Nikki Cross was in trances some point in the latter part of last year for months on end. And now we know why. That's how good this creative team is. So, of course, it's a videotape. And the only thing I was saying to myself was, geez, I really hope it's not another sit down with Bo Dallas and Uncle Howdy. Because I think once was spectacular, twice was pushing it, 3 times would be overkill. So you don't know what you're getting until later in the show. And then they bring up the main event tonight is going to be Dirty Dom and Liv teaming with teaming with each other to go and face LWO, essentially Rey Mysterio and Zelina Vega. Great choice. Got a lot of heat for this feud. Got a lot of heat for this match. Really good choice. I'm just kind of hitting on the key points of Raw. I'm not going to go over every single moment because I don't think every single moment was super important. There was another important moment, though. Chad Gable was left alone. Nothing happened to him, but he's clearly the Wyatt Six primary target at this moment. As they stick to Raw, he's clearly the target, and it has something to do with the fact that he mistreats family or surrogate family. So, it'll be interesting to see where this goes, but, less is more when it comes to this kind of a gimmick. You don't want to overdo the supernatural aspect of it and don't want to overdo any of the progress, the slow progress they're making, because they're doing a great, great job in my view. Up next was Sammy. He's in Canada. He was the triumphant hero. He returneth, and he hath the gold, and he has it on his shoulder. And what was great about this one was he didn't come out as happy-go-lucky Sami Zayn, just happy to be here. He cut a really riveting promo where short but sweet, but he says, I've put in stellar work, unbelievable work from past months and years, to the point where Braun came into Money in the Bank and looked at me as an underdog. He's like, I'm no longer the underdog. I'm the champion. It is a fault to underestimate me as an underdog. I am a champion, and I have earned the respect of a champion. And I just thought it was really special because, you forget how good on the roster Sami Zayn is. And I would argue, even though Kevin Owens is one of my favorites, I would have to say over the past couple of years, Sami Zayn has definitely overshadowed Kevin Owens as far as in terms of tiers of superstar. He has, because it's been such a long time ago at this point where Kevin Owens was with the Universal title that it's almost a distant memory. Sami Zayn has been in the forefront ever since lobbying to get himself in the Bloodline story, and it has just propelled him to new and unforeseen heights, the likes of which I never expected. And kudos to Sami, because he is such an unbelievable ring talent. He's just a great, great addition to any roster. But then that brings out Braun, and Braun comes out and he says, you are you're the only person who can lay claim to beating me on this roster. He's like, you're the only one. He's like, no one's beat me. And he's like, I know I don't have a reason to ask for that Intercontinental title rematch. I know I haven't earned it or whatnot. And then mid-sentence, he just turns and spears Zayn and knocks him right out of his shoes, actually, and puts him down. And that was the kind of thing you wanted to see. This is what you expect from Braun. Even though it's perplexing that Braun lost clean to Sami. Maybe you can look at it as a hiccup or an oversight, and Braun is recalibrating. But Sami beat him clean. No shenanigans. Beat him. That's it. 1, 2, 3. Right in the ring. Beat him. And you can't argue, but what I did like is this is the comeback. And so he spears Sammy, and then that brings out Adam Pearce and everything else. And I've got to say something else too. I was never a big fan of Adam Pearce at the very beginning, but he has really come into this general manager role. Like, he is the haggard, always on the go general manager, and he does it so well. He really does. He's a no-nonsense general manager who isn't afraid to stick up to the roster. If you fuck with him, he's going right back at you. And it's great. It's such a change from general managers that we've seen in the past, like the maniacal, powering general manager that usually wags their finger and something gets done, or they're, a chicken shit when it comes to confrontation. But not him. He's right in the thick of things, and he's just like, man, here I am. So, really good on that. But then the coolest thing is, they're walking Braun up the ramp, and you just knew they weren't going to resist the chance to get Braun to be able to run around the ring at breakneck speed with the aerial cam and just spear Sammy out of his boots again. And it's what happened. He kind of was like, hey, what's that? And pointed off, and in typical Bugs Bunny Warner Brothers fashion, Adam Pearce and all the goons that was with him looked off to the side like, hey, what is that? And then Braun was just off to the races, and boom, rockets into Sami Zayn, just knocks Sammy out. And that brings out Ilya Dragunov, of course, which was touching. And, Ilya's like, I want Braun. And so Pierce grants him it. And that's for later in the show. And I'll be honest, nothing of merit really happened there, so I'm not going to go into it. What I am going to do now is talk about two talents that I am not the biggest on. Just haven't been. They haven't never clicked with me. Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler. I've never been the biggest Shayna fan, but she deserves her flowers. She really does. She works hard. And Zoe Stark was up and coming, but she just never clicked with me. I think I don't know. It doesn't do it for me. But what did do it for me was the return of Sonya Deville to the ring. And they dominated Damage Control. They wiped them out. And you know what? Okay. You've piqued now you got my attention. Because Sonya Deville is one of my favorite women's wrestlers. And I'm very intrigued to see what she does with this stable. I'm very intrigued. I like Sonya Deville. She's got a lot of potential. Truth be told, if anyone's a fan of this channel or a longtime fan, you'll know that my all-time favorite wish list match at WrestleMania for the Women's Championship was Sonya Deville versus Ronda Rousey. I just always wanted to see that match. I'm not going to say we'll never, because I've learned not to say in wrestling. But most likely, we're not going to get that match. Most likely, it's not going to occur. And that's okay. I guess we'll just have to deal. However, this was good stuff. I'm intrigued to see where it goes. This could be a problem for Jade and Bianca. Although I have a funny feeling that the Jade and Bianca breakup is coming a lot sooner than later. As a matter of fact, I think we might even get a Jade and Bianca match at SummerSlam against each other. There's something in my gut that says it. I feel like they're going to get one more shot at the titles against Alba and Isla. They're going to fail, and I think Bianca's going to turn on Jade out of frustration. I could see it coming. Speaking of which, I could see it coming. Another match I kind of glossed over was there was a 6-man tag with Braun and the former WWE Raw Tag Team Champions, The Miz and R-Truth, versus the Judgment Day. And I could care less. The Judgment Day is really wearing thin with me at this point. It needs new life, or it needs to be broken. It just needs to be blown up. But the bottom line was the Judgment Day get the win. And the Miz is bullshit on the outside of the ring. And it's not just a sense of despair or disappointment. It's more of you can see the wheels turning. That I think the Miz is going to go heel very, very soon. I think he's going to go heel on R-Truth. Excuse me. And I think that we're going to see something to that effect, because I think they've gone as far as they can with Miz and R-Truth. They've done the comedy shtick, and they've done the novelty act. They've been champions recently. I think it's time for the Miz to get more bite to his character again. The last time he was really compelling was when he faced Gunther. That was such a good little mini feud. Really dug it. And I think the Miz deserves more. The Miz gets overlooked a lot. However, now let's go on to the main. There was an interesting thing that they didn't touch upon before I go on to the main. We did get the videotape, the third installment of the Wyatt 6 Chronicles, and it was Bo Dallas explaining that he took all the unwanted and made them a family and gave them purpose, and they were happy to be given a purpose, and they were happy to not be forgotten. And you had Bo Dallas talking to his Uncle Howdy persona saying, "Do you think we're sick?" And Uncle Howdy says, "Yes, we are." And he goes, "Then sick is what we'll be." So now officially coining the Wyatt 6, that means that not only that there's 6 members, which there's one that's unknown. My theory is it's Bray and Spirit inside the lantern is the 6th member, that Bray is the spirit driving them from the beyond. And then the Wyatt 6 also means that they're sick in the head. They're sick individuals, mentally ill, if you will. So, again, not a cringe segment. I didn't mind the video. I thought the video was a little bit better than last week. We didn't need a second diatribe between Bo Dallas and Uncle Howdy. I didn't think that was warranted, but they rebounded pretty good. And then a little later in the show, you see Adam Pearce all haggard after talking to Punk, saying that you'll get your match. I'll reinstate Drew when I feel like it, but you're going to heal up first. And it was a change of course. It was nice to not have a general manager that everyone's like, "I'm going to beat you up if you don't do what I do." Where, Adam Pearce is very fair, so it just makes sense. But yeah, he goes to walk in his locker room, and his office for the day, and who happens to be there, sitting there in the chair, kind of rocking back and forth with a real, just concerning disposition, is Bo Dallas, outside of his Uncle Howdy persona, but very disturbing. And the door closes, and you don't know what happens. Maybe next week there's something that happened. Maybe Pierce is gone. Maybe Bo Dallas does something really drastic next week. Who knows? The road to SummerSlam is really heating up. It's only got 2 weeks left after this. So now on to the main event. The main event was sufficient. Good tag match. Liv and Dom get the win. They go to celebrate. And what happens? Boom. This is my brutality. Holy potatoes. Out comes Rhea Bloody Ripley. Mommy's back, y'all. And she's pissed. And that's basically how we go off the air. She storms after Liv, and Liv looks like she's seeing a ghost at the shore, and she just jumps over the barricade, and she is roadrunner out of there. And Dom is left in the ring, and Bria gets in there, and she's like, "Look at me, Mommy's back." And he's like, "Mommy's back." And she just shoves him out of the way. And that's where we leave it. That's where we fade to black. That's where it goes. Got to tell you, this is my first Raw rebuttal, and I'm going to be doing these every week. Hopefully Donnie will be joining. But man, what a rebound. What a rebound from Money in the Bank. It is very funny what 72 hours can do, because I was very down on a lot of the creative decisions. I still am. SmackDown, y'all better take notes, because Raw did it right. I hope to God you guys can do something to the same effect, because what transpired at the end of that show was just a travesty of justice. And I don't mean that, the story shouldn't progress, but that's for another time. But yeah, Raw, great points. I'll start with the bullet points, and then we'll call it a day. Drew, Seth, Punk, lots of good stuff there. Gunther stating his claim, stating his motivation. Great promo, great video package. Sammy coming out and saying he's no longer the underdog, but he should be respected. And Braun breaking him in half. Perfect follow-up. The Wyatt 6, good rebound from last week where it was a little shaky and a little less, on course. This now I'm sucked back in. You got me. You pulled me back in. I want to see more. And then, of course, the Liv, Dom, and now Mommy returning story. Just awesome stuff, guys. I mean, awesome stuff. Great job, creative team. Really can't wait to see where it goes. And yeah, as my illustrious colleague says, this is Mr. Joey Business for the Smart Tank Revolution, signing off.